Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and this is the news and politics from around the world for Monday, January the 20th, 2025. Oh, goodness, there's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and just jump into this here. From the lever, Oligarchy Now, from Elon Musk to Mark Zuckerberg. Donald Trump is about to provide the world's wealthiest people with an unprecedented influence over his administration. Donald Trump is back, and this time he's bringing corporate America. Trump's decisive victory in November wasn't that decisive. Sent a shockwave through corporate C-suites. Now, Trump is preparing to outsource much of his governing to a small cabal of the nation's wealthiest people. In anticipation, many of the nation's most powerful CEOs have pledged loyalty to Trump. That includes Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, and Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who are funding his inauguration and festivities and reportedly sitting with Trump's cabinet during his inauguration. Those are three of the richest people in the world, and they're on Trump's administration. You can't tell me we don't live in an oligarchy. That's where we are. We're now being ruled by the rich. We are in the Gilded Age too, even though there's tons of money rolling in. It's only going into a few hands. To make sense of it all, David Sirota and senior podcast producer Arjun Singh sit down with David Dayen, executive editor of the American Prospect, and Ryan Grim, co-founder of DropSite News, discuss the power players in Trump's orbit and the state of the nation he's about to inherit on a special Inauguration Day episode of Lever Time. We'll go ahead and end this here because, like I said, we've got a lot to go over. But these sources will be in the description box below the video, as always. From ProPublica, North Carolina Supreme Court candidate wants military absentee votes tossed. Years earlier, that's how he voted. Republican Jefferson Griffin is trying to overturn his election loss by asking the North Carolina Supreme Court to toss 5,500 military and overseas absentee ballots. He used the same method to vote in 2019 and 2020. This shows the absolute hypocrisy and lies that infiltrate the Republican Party. Man was in the military, voted military absentee ballot 2019, 2020, 5 and 6 years ago. Now he's like, I lost, so they shouldn't be allowed. That's exactly what's going on. As a member of the Army National Guard in 2019 and 2020, Jefferson Griffin voted in North Carolina elections using military absentee ballots. Now he seeks to overturn the results of a state Supreme Court election that went against him. Griffin is asking that same court to disqualify the votes of around 5,500 people who voted in the same manner as he had. So he's one of these rights for me but not for thee typical Republican. Typical Republican behavior. Also from ProPublica, lawmakers in at least 7 states will seek expanded abortion access. Some of the bills were filed in a direct response to ProPublica's reporting on the fatal consequences of abortion bans. Yeah, lawmakers are starting to see maybe banning abortion straight out wasn't the best thing. In advance of this year's state legislative sessions, lawmakers are filing more than a dozen bills to expand abortion access in at least 7 states, and a separate bill introduced in Texas seeks to examine the impact that the state's abortion ban has had on maternal outcomes. Some were filed in direct response to ProPublica's reporting on the fatal consequences of such laws. Others were submitted for a second or third year in a row with new optimism that they will gain traction this time. The difference now is the unavoidable reality. Multiple women in multiple states with abortion bans have died after they couldn't get life-saving care. Yep. This is what happens when you give lawmaking to lunatics. Also from ProPublica, this storm-battered town voted for Trump. He has vowed to overturn the law that could fix its homes. Donald Trump has said he will overturn a law that helps communities better weather the effects of climate change. If he follows through, he'll be reversing an initiative that has disproportionately benefited areas that make up his base. Cynthia Robertson could be forgiven for feeling that the banner was aimed at her. It's white on black lettering. Fuck Biden and fuck you for voting for him. Hung from the wooden house right across the street from her own. Hostility toward the outgoing Democratic president is no surprise in Sulphur, Louisiana, a red town in a red state in a country that has handed the White House and Congress to Republicans. Yet the message felt like a poke in the eye at a time when Robertson was seeking funding through Biden's signature climate law so her nonprofit organization could repair and retrofit hurricane-battered houses in the area, including her neighbors. Not even a fraying tarp, a tar patch, or the piece of corrugated metal tacked on the roof could keep the rain from pouring inside. Donald Trump has vowed to overturn the law that would provide the funding. The Inflation Reduction Act, which he has referred to as the new green scam. I keep telling people he's not your friend, but they don't listen. From KenKlippenstein.com. Government monitoring those with negative views of health insurance companies. New documents reveal flurry of intelligence activity following Luigi Mangioni's arrest. If you express negative sentiment toward insurance companies on social media following the murder of United Healthcare's CEO last month, the government was watching. Following the shooting, the New York State Intelligence Center identified a large amount of negative sentiment towards healthcare executives and healthcare companies on social media. A bulletin produced by a regional intelligence group on December 12th says the bulletin goes on to warn of users online wanting to counter corporate greed, as well as growing negative sentiment around conglomerates, the wealthy, and executive staff at private and public organizations. Setting aside the yeah, no shit factor, the report provides rare insight into how the government threat machine stokes fear among law enforcement agencies across the country. So, see, they're monitoring people who are against corporate greed, who are against the average American suffering, but they want to protect those wealthy, those that are rich. Yeah. FBI, CIA, NSA. You are on the wrong side of right and wrong. Inequality.org. Trump plans a supersized tax giveaway for corporations and the wealthy. Trump campaigned on lowering prices for Americans. Instead, his first priority is to cut taxes for billionaires, and then services that are for the rest of us. As President Trump takes office, his Republican allies in Congress are already hard at work readying his legislative agenda. Trump campaigned on a promise to lower costs for Americans, but so far, the GOP hasn't proposed a single plan to do that. Instead, Republicans are laser focused on passing another round of massive tax breaks for the ultra wealthy and corporations. Yeah, the first time he did that, 85% of it went to the 1%. Yet people seem not to have learned a single freaking thing. It's shaping up to be 2017 all over again. Trump made a lot of promises on the campaign trail in 2016 too, and quickly broke most of them. But did he fulfill one? His 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, his only signature legislative accomplishment, was a field day for the oligarchs and CEOs who helped elect him. Yeah, like I said, 85% went to the richest 1% in the country. Yeah, he's not a good person. Oh, there's the X. Little antivirus pop-up popped up, and I was like, where's the X on the thing? Anyway, yeah. Next, let's look at some great pictures here. This is from the Appalachia subreddit. Snowy morning sunrise. Like I said, if there's nothing else, the landscape, the views are absolutely gorgeous here in Appalachia. And we have another picture from the Appalachia subreddit. Picture from near Somerset, Pennsylvania. It just keeps coming. Yeah, it's been snow and cold crazy all week. Right now I'm doing this at night. This video, of course, because it's Monday's news and everything. We're closing in on 11 p.m. But, yeah. Tonight's the coldest it's been all week, and it is crazy. The thing on my computer says 7 degree Fahrenheit. Which what would be what in Celsius? About 38, 37, something like that. Regardless, it's cold. 0 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 32 degrees Celsius. I think that's how it worked. 32 to 100 and 0 to 212. Because I think it's from freezing to boiling. But yeah, you're looking at about 36, 37, 38 degrees Celsius, which is 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Somewhere in that range. It is cold. It's, yeah, ridiculously cold. There's snow on the ground. It's done nothing but snow. So yeah, it's been a stay inside near heat source weather. Now, this is from Ask Historians. Did Jesus of Nazareth, as in the historical person, claim to be the Son of God? I know that Jesus of Nazareth is pretty universally believed to be the real person by historians. I've always made the assumption that his life was relatively accurately chronicled in the Bible insofar as what he preached while alive. However, I recently read that historians are fairly certain that Jesus never actually claimed to be the Son of God. Is this accurate? And if applicable, the second part of my question is, if Jesus of Nazareth, the person, never claimed to be the Son of God, how did the biblical Jesus come to be the Son of God? Do we know who wrote it? Or maybe this is more answerable. What is the earliest appearance of this that we are aware of? First answer, there's a similar question from a year ago that answers at least the first part of your question. We'll go ahead and pop that up there. Particularly the answer by Reddit Veritas McGroot. This thread also addresses the answer in a sub-discussion. And we'll pop that up. Next answer, it does not seem defensible to state that Jesus wasn't claiming to be the Son of God during his lifetime. While there is a lot of aspects of early Christianity that are mysterious, even the resurrection and its evolution, Jesus as the Son of God is coherent across many different texts and disciplines. But yeah, they list that. Do you have stronger evidence for saying that his not claiming to be the Son of God is indefensible than asserting it is extremely unlikely that strangers would have appended that claim to a rural preacher? People just don't do that style. Arguments don't seem particularly rigorous in a modern way, and a lot of those up to a century ago sent us down a lot of presumptuous false paths. And many New Testament scholars do defend the other position equally. We could argue that Jewish rabbis just don't claim to be divine and get traction in a deeply religious monotheistic society and sound just as compelling while ignoring nuances. So yeah, I agree right here. Are you just saying why there's nothing to claim he wouldn't be? People just wouldn't claim this. Have you not paid attention to society? A lot of people claim a lot of stuff. Let's cite George Santos. There's a lot he claimed that turned out to be a lot of lies. I believe that current reading of Mark 1:1 no longer includes the reference to the Son of God. Have other references been removed by current scholarship? Regarding the opening poster, I believe that the scholarship consensus is that the Gospels do not accurately represent the life and words of Jesus except in the broadest terms. He was probably an apocalyptic preacher. He was probably crucified, etc., etc. Yeah. But, like I said, we'll go ahead and I'll leave this on here so you can leave it in the description box below the video so that you can read it yourself. Because I want to kind of get through all this tonight here, so... there was the Jesus historically claimed to be the Son of God. And that's that sub-discussion, so both those were the ones I opened up. Now, here's some interesting charts from Data is Beautiful. Billionaire wealth in the U.S. 2020 to 2025. Let's open that up here. Daily net worth of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump, and 1,018 other American billionaires. Of course, the blue is Mark Zuckerberg, black Jeff Bezos, and the red Elon Musk. Pay attention to November 5th. That was election day. Donald Trump's down here towards the bottom in orange. So yeah. And this is data straight from Forbes. From February 2020 to January of 2025. So this is pretty up to date. In 2020, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Musk. Trump was way down there. As we went along, Trump stayed pretty steady. He didn't grow any at all. Musk started skyrocketing. He really grew. So this is about 2021. And he got up close to Jeff Bezos. By 2022, he passed Bezos and became the richest man in the world. 2023, he maintained that lead. Zuckerberg was losing a little bit of money. Bezos was up and down, but he was on a down slope at that point. Musk was just continuing to grow. Then he had a huge drop. Came back up. 2024, he's still at the top. And then, yeah, Zuckerberg's growing. Bezos is growing. Musk suffers a little bit of a drop, and Bezos actually does pass him for a little bit, but he eventually comes back. And then you look at this, election day. Trump actually slightly goes up. He still doesn't go up a lot. But Zuckerberg gaining lots of wealth beyond what he already has. Bezos gaining wealth. And Musk, look how his wealth skyrocketed. Yeah. Here we have another chart from Data is Beautiful. Locations of those fatally shot by police in 2020. It's 1,021 fatal shootings by police in 2020. And they have shooting deaths per million residents. The darker the state, the more deaths per million residents. They apparently weren't able to find the data for Vermont. But yeah, you look at your two darkest states, the ones with per percentage the most shootings per resident. Alaska and Montana. Not the states you would expect, but yeah, for as many people, for the population they have a lot of shootings. Well, as a total number, it's not big, but per percentage of your residents, it's huge. Other states you can see are pretty big. Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, that's Colorado, pretty high. And then you get a little lighter and you're looking at Louisiana, Florida, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky. That's a dangerous tide there. California, Oregon, Washington, and North Dakota and Utah. So those are kind of your mid-ground ones. Notice how many are in the South, though. You got West Coast and then a good portion of the South. There is a darker tone in the colors of the next states between others, but it's very hard to tell. You can tell these and these and these, but the next ones would be what? I mean, the safest, least murders per population, Idaho, Wyoming. And again, they have no data for Rhode Island or Vermont. But yeah. You'll notice the cluster of police murders in the South here, though. Look how many there are. There's a lot on the West Coast, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. But yeah, the South, it's crazy. It's just all over the place. Murder, murder, murder. Look at Florida. Almost all up and down the freaking eastern coastline. It's a murder for another spot. Shouldn't be joking about murder, but still, just kind of proving a point there. Let's look at some pictures from history porn. This Reddit's all about photographs of historical significance. So let's look through these. This is a picture of Adolf Hitler at a window of the Reich Chancellery receiving an ovation on the evening of his inauguration as Chancellor of Germany on January the 30th, 1933. He's right here in this window. Let's go ahead and roll that up. Yeah, right here. And you can see the crowd below. So, yeah. This is a photo of a boarding school of folk school association in Tarnopol, Poland, now in modern day Ukraine. Children during their meal in 1929. So yeah, you can see them all at the table. They're eating. And there's the teachers and stuff in the background. Caretakers and so on. Here we have an image. East African member of the King's African Rifles enjoying a rest and a cigarette in Burma in 1944. Burma is now modern day Myanmar. So yeah. I don't know which King's Rifles. I'm assuming probably England, Britain, perhaps the Dutch, perhaps, you know, there was a number of imperialistic kingdoms. Here's an image. Fat Men's Shop in New York in the 1950s. Fat Men's Shop. Yeah. It wasn't, oh, we've got to have a sensitive word. No. Hey, you're fat. We've got clothes for you. There are terms that are just stupid and insensitive, but yeah, if you're fat, just admit it, you're fat. I'm fat. Not with a PH. Here we have an image. Welsh strongwoman Miriam Kate Williams, also known as Volcana, in her show outfit circa 1890. So yeah. Strong woman, show off how powerful she was and everything. Because remember, this was still during the age of women should be dainty and fragile. Yeah. And finally, we have an image. 3 U.S. infantrymen in the snow during the Battle of Hurtgen Forest, just east of the Belgium-Germany border in 1944. The photos by Tony Vaccaro, a U.S. Army Signal Corps member. But yeah, here you see the 3 U.S. infantrymen. Infantrymen, yeah, that's what they were saying. I was like, did they say Marines or infantrymen? Is it infantrymen? But yeah, they're stacked behind the snowy hillside there, taking cover, ready to fire. But yeah, now let's get on to some more news and stuff. From Reuters. Day one, Trump's in office. He withdraws from the Paris Climate Agreement again. So much stupid. But anyway, decision places the U.S. alongside Iran, Libya, and Yemen as the only countries in the world outside of the 2015 pact, because he cannot stand that a black man did something right, and he's like, no, you can't have the black man stuff in there. He might have a bigger penis than my toadstool. That's how petty he seems, honestly. The move reflects Trump's skepticism, his idiocy, it's not skepticism, about global warming, even as disastrous weather events become more common. That's because Trump is a moron. Fits with his broader agenda to boost the U.S. oil and gas drilling. We should be heading to other sources of fuel instead of oil and gas. They're not going to be a permanent resource anyway. But again, we're talking about a moron. Also from Reuters. Trump to pull nearly 1,660 Afghan refugees from flights, say a U.S. official and advocate. The refugees include family members of active duty U.S. military personnel. So yeah, these are actually Americans because they're family members of other Americans. And he's like, no, I'm stupid, so I want to allow these people to come back. Unaccompanied minors, former Afghan soldiers also losing flights. Nearly 1,660 Afghans cleared by the U.S. government to resettle in the U.S., including family members of active duty U.S. military personnel, are having their flights canceled under Donald Trump's order suspending U.S. refugee programs. A U.S. official and a leading refugee resettlement advocate said on Monday. Well, maybe if our Hainan hadn't been in the region causing a great disturbance, there wouldn't be refugees. This is from NPRnews.org. Indigenous activist Leonard Peltier granted clemency by President Biden. Yeah, this has been a controversial issue for a long time, and I'm glad it was finally dealt with. Leonard Peltier, citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe, gave an interview to MIGIZI Communications while standing trial in Wisconsin for the attempted murder of a police officer. He was acquitted of the charge in 1978. That means they said, okay, you're innocent. But he's still been incarcerated. In one of his last official acts before leaving the White House, President Joe Biden released Leonard Peltier from prison. The action is an extraordinary move that ends a decades-long push by indigenous activists, international religious leaders, human rights organizations, and Hollywood insiders who have argued that the 80-year-old Native American activist was wrongly convicted. The commutation was widely opposed by law enforcement, of course, who insisted that Peltier's actions were cold-blooded and he should remain in prison for the rest of his life for murdering FBI agents Jack Kohler and Ronald Williams in 1975. The agents' deaths came at a time when tensions were high over a nationwide struggle between the U.S. government and activists for Native American civil and treaty rights. According to the executive grant of clemency signed by Biden, the commutation takes effect February the 18th. In a statement, Biden said Peltier is to serve the remainder of his sentence at home and reiterated it's not a pardon. Tribal nations, Nobel Peace Laureates, former law enforcement officials, including the former U.S. attorney whose office oversaw Peltier's prosecution and appeal, dozens of lawmakers and human rights organizations strongly support granting Mr. Peltier clemency, citing his advanced age, illnesses, his close ties to and leadership in the Native American community, and the substantial length of time he has already spent in prison. Nick Tilson, the executive director of the Indian Collective, an indigenous-led nonprofit, said Peltier's release from the is a historic moment that comes after many years of organizing and lobbying across the globe. Yeah, like I said, they've been pushing for this for a long time, so I'm glad it's finally been taken care of. Leonard Peltier now gets to go home. Every Indian person ever wanted to do was go home and back to their people, and now he's going to have an opportunity to do that. Kevin Sharp, the former chief judge of the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee, he represented Peltier for 5 years and filed for a clemency petition in 2019 and refiled it in 2021. He said Biden granting Peltier clemency will have a big impact in Indian country. President Biden took an enormous step toward healing and reconciliation with the Native American people in this country. It took nearly 50 years to acknowledge the injustice of Leonard Peltier's conviction and continued incarceration. But with the president's act of mercy, Leonard can finally return to his reservation and live out his remaining days. To say this is overdue is an understatement, and the massive effort to push for Leonard's freedom by so many is unparalleled. Says Robert Gifford, a criminal defense attorney who had worked to secure Peltier's clemency for more than 4 years. Clifford released audio he said was recorded with Peltier Monday. On the call, Peltier said he was overwhelmed with happiness. I want to walk out there like a warrior and, start getting myself treated and getting myself in shape again and continue my life helping our people. Biden's action isn't a pardon that forgives Peltier's offense, but rather a commutation which lessens his sentence and effectively frees him from prison. Peltier suffers from complications related to diabetes, kidney disease, and near blindness, and his attorneys argued that he would not survive much longer in prison. According to the statement made by Biden, Peltier will serve out the rest of his sentence in home confinement. Peltier has been held in Florida at Coleman 1, a federal detention center in Sumter County. He admitted shooting the agents but always maintained his innocence. "I did not kill those agents," Peltier told former Minnesota Public Radio broadcaster Gary Eichten in a 1991 interview. Peltier was working on an appeal at that time. His last bid for parole was denied in last July, and he wasn't eligible for another hearing until June 2026. Biden's move is certain to anger many in the law enforcement community. FBI Director Christopher Wray lobbied against Peltier's most recent parole request. Over the last 45 years, fewer than 22 federal judges have evaluated the evidence and considered Peltier's legal arguments. Wray wrote in a letter opposing Peltier's 2024 parole request. Each has reached the same conclusion. Peltier's claims are meritless and his convictions and sentence must stand. The FBI also discouraged past presidents from pardoning or granting clemency to Peltier. They were down, they were wounded, they were helpless, and he shot them point blank. Mike Clark, president of the Society of Former Special Agents of the FBI, told the AP last summer, "It is a heinous crime." In a July 2024 AP article, also shared a photo from a demonstration on December the 15th, 2000, of 500 agents marching toward the White House protesting clemency for Peltier. An agent carried a photo of Kohler and Williams. Clark shared a statement Monday upon hearing the news that Peltier was granted a commutation of his sentence. "This action is truly an affront to the rule of law. Law that is wrong is an affront unto itself." I'm not saying, shooting and if people die, it shouldn't be considered a potential murder, but yeah, just because it's law doesn't mean it's just. I would like to thank all society members, especially Ed Woods, who have taken action and made efforts over the years to ensure that Peltier, a remorseless killer, served his sentence. Fuck you, Clark. Kohler and Williams were shot at the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota while serving an arrest warrant for someone else. The shooting of the two agents followed a tense 2 years on the Pine Ridge Reservation. At the time, leaders of the American Indian movement demanded better treatment of Native people living on and off the reservation, including jobs, better health care, and education. Things that people want, they need, that anybody would want. AIM was founded in 1968 in Minneapolis during the nationwide struggle for civil rights. Peltier, a citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa in North Dakota, joined the movement in 1972. In February of 73, the tension culminated at Wounded Knee when members of AIM and other indigenous people took over the town. A standoff between members of AIM and the federal law enforcement lasted for 71 days. After the Wounded Knee occupation ended, a wave of violence overtook Pine Ridge. According to the reports, more than 20 people were killed on the reservation. In the late morning on June the 26th, 1975, agents spotted and followed what was described as a red pickup truck. You know how many times something's been described as the potential vehicle? Potential suspect? I'm sorry. It's just hard to have sympathy when you see this over and over and over. I mean, I showed you a chart on how police murder willy nilly. Peltier and a few other men were in the truck, which turned into Jumping Bull Ranch in Oglala, South Dakota, where Peltier and other AIM members were camping. A firefight ensued. Just before noon, agents radioed for backup, saying they were under fire and needed assistance. Other agents were miles away and also under duress. Within minutes, both Kohler and Williams had been shot and killed. It took hours for their bodies to be recovered. According to the FBI, a total of 5 rounds had been fired from both Williams and Kohler's weapons. The agents' vehicles alone had 125 bullet holes. Williams was shot in the foot, his body, his head, while Kohler was shot twice in the head after sustaining other bullet wounds. Williams' car was later taken, as well as the agents' weapons. The FBI alleges that Darrell Butler took Williams' handgun, Peltier took Kohler's, and Robert Robideau took Kohler's rifle and shotgun. Another person who was also killed in the gunfight, Joseph Bedell Stuntz Sr., was 23 years old and a tribal citizen originally from Forks and Port Angeles in Washington. According to FBI reports, Stuntz was shot by law enforcement during the altercation. Butler, Peltier, and Robideau were charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and aiding and abetting. Peltier, who had already had an outstanding warrant for unlawful flight to avoid persecution, fled to Canada. He was placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list in 1975. Extradited to in 1976, he was captured by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and extradited to the U.S. His trial took place a year later in Fargo, North Dakota. After a 5-week trial, Peltier was found guilty and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison. Butler and Robideau were acquitted in 1976 on grounds of self-defense. Peltier's version of the event also changed over time. In the book written by Peter Matthiessen, titled The Spirit of Crazy Horse, Peltier said he was working on a car nowhere near the Jumping Bull when the incident occurred. In another account, he said he was awakened by the sound of gunfire. In his 1999 memoir, Prison Writing, My Life is My Sundance, Peltier admitted to shooting at the agents, but maintained he did not kill them. Yeah. But yeah, advocates have called for Peltier's release for decades. But yeah. So, I mean, the guy's in his 80s. Commute him, let him live out his life. He's clearly no threat to anybody now. From CBS News. Child labor in slaughterhouses spotlighted by 3 settlements this week. The problem of kids working in dangerous slaughterhouses continues to be a concern as the Labor Department announced its 3rd agreement this week with a company in the industry agreeing to pay a penalty and reform its practices to help ensure it won't hire underage workers again. 3rd in a week. I mean, again, just further proof. We live in a second Gilded Age. They're hiring kids because they know they can use them and treat them however without much repercussion. Or at least that's what they're thinking they should be able to do. From the AP. As ceasefire takes hold, Hamas returns 3 Israeli hostages and Israel frees 90 Palestinian prisoners. People may look at the numbers and be, that's insane. You don't realize how many people are just locked away into Israeli prisons just because. The Israeli government is not full of good people. Far from it. And yeah, even though it's a ceasefire, we already know over 100 people's been killed since that has been signed or agreed to. There's no real peace. Netanyahu don't want real peace. From the Independent, Elon Musk accused of giving Nazi salute at Trump inauguration celebration. The world's richest man drew a lot of attention over an ill-advised salute he did on stage, with many likening it to a Nazi gesture. He literally went like that. He says, my heart goes out to you afterwards. No, that's a Nazi salute. Even people who are going, that's the Roman salute. Roman salutes were used later by who? Say it with me. The Nazis. And that's who it became affiliated with, you morons. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, article from The Guardian on it appears to make back-to-back fascist salutes at inauguration rally. Yeah, he does it twice. Yeah, the inauguration, and what does Elon do? Nazi salutes twice. I mean, he can't be that dense, can he? That he just, oh, I didn't realize that's what it was. From Bloomberg Law. Trump and allies sued over Doge plans in union-backed lawsuits. Plaintiffs accuse Trump Group of violating transparency law. Public interest groups and unions have filed 3 lawsuits. The largest federal employee union and a national teachers union are among the first to file lawsuits challenging President Donald Trump's planned government efficiency organization effort. Yeah, because they want to be able to fire, they say, the people who just work there. They call them part of people taking advantage, part of the swamp. It's like, So you want to fire regular workers. Why? Why? No. I back the unions and I back the interest groups that are going after them. I know they won't go anywhere because everything's stacked in President Moron's favor, but I hope they make him squirm. From Common Dreams, Progressive group launches House recruitment drive to defeat corporate Dems. Our mission is clear. We must usher in a new generation in the Democratic Party led for and by the working class to take on billionaires and corporate power. Absolutely! Although I still would love to see more parties. I want to see more parties, so we'll be required to have coalition governments. You can't be morons in the laws you pass. Because goodness knows they'll happily pass far right laws. They don't pass far left. Because, like I've tried to point out before, we don't have a far left party with any power. Democrats are not left. They are corporate centrists. Anyway, from The Independent, imprisoned Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio to be released following Trump pardon. Trump pardons nearly all January 6 defendants in sweeping executive order on his first day in office. So he gets us out of the Paris Climate Agreement again. He pardons all the insurrectionists on January the 6th. Yeah. We're in for a long 4 years. From LGBTQ Nation, Biden administration warns against forced surgeries on intersex children in historic report. Intersex. These are literally people who have parts or full, well, I wouldn't imagine it'd be full, but they have privates that are of both gender. Many times you'll see women with testes. So yes, it is very real. It's not just a, there is only men and women. No, sometimes nature does screw up. Admiral Rachel Levine's office issued the guidance that warned of the lasting harm of such interventions. The Department of Health and Human Services has released a first of its kind report on health equity for intersex individuals, citing the lasting harm surgical interventions inflict on infants and others subjected to non-consensual procedures. You notice how the right wing likes to do interventions? Let's have an intervention with you since you think you're gay. Let's have a surgical intervention because you're not supposed to have two parts, two different gender parts, sexual parts. titled Advancing Health Equity for Intersex Individuals. The groundbreaking paper was issued by the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Health, led by Admiral Rachel Levine, and the first out trans official confirmed by the U.S. Senate. From CNBC, billionaire wealth surges to unimaginable levels in 2024 as Oxfam predicts emergence of 5 trillionaires within a decade. I keep telling y'all, we're in the second Gilded Age. There is wealth inequality out the yazoo. A millionaire who has $1 million has $1 million. A millionaire that has $100 million has $1 million 100 times. A millionaire, someone who is a billionaire who has $1 billion has $1 million 1,000 times. Someone who is 100 billionaire has 100 has $1 billion 100 times. And remember, we said $1 billion is $1,001 million. Well, they have that 100 times. Imagine a trillionaire. That is obscene and absurd for anybody to be a trillionaire. It should be a federal felony. Because there's nothing you could have really done that you deserve that kind of money for it. No. I just want to read the article. We don't need to. I can see the title. From Sky News, Trump to sign order proclaiming there are only 2 sexes. And what did we just read? Intersex. Which is technically another sex on its own because it's both sexes kind of combined. But yeah, Trump's part of this culture war stupidity. He is President Moron, as I keep saying. From the AP, Pope Francis calls Trump's plan of mass deportation of immigrants a disgrace. Pope Francis is one of the best popes there's been in recent memory. He really is. He's still not as forward as we like, but he has done a lot to bring the church into the present day, as he is needed to do. From Axios, Trump signs an executive order aimed at ending birthright citizenship. Trump has signed an executive order attempting to end birthright citizenship in the U.S., a right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and affirmed by the Supreme Court more than 125 years ago. President Moron. Trump is acting on a once fringe belief that U.S.-born children of undocumented immigrants have no right on U.S. citizenship and are part of a conspiracy rooted in racism to replace white Americans. The 14th Amendment would like a word with you, President Moron! The 14th Amendment says anybody born here is a U.S. citizen. Get the heck over it. I'm trying not to curse, but it's hard when the guy's a daggone moron. From WhiteHouse.gov, restoring names that honor American greatness by the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the U.S., I hereby ordered. It is hereby ordered in the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of the nation. Restoring names that honor American greatness. Blah, blah, blah. You know, this is signed today by President Moron. Oh, this is his stupidity where he's wanting to name things Gulf of America. How tiny is your penis that you have to name the Gulf of Mexico? It's the Gulf of America because I'm a little whiny bitch. God, he's such a little cunt. From the AP, MLK Day at King's Atlanta congregation features daughters warning about anti-woke rhetoric. Massive 70-member choir belted out Hallelujah at MLK Day service Monday at his former congregation in Atlanta, followed by a stern message from his youngest daughter warning against anti-woke rhetoric. The service at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta was among the most prominent commemorations of King that played out across the country Monday. At the church front of the church's stage, 7 people held large signs proclaiming justice, freedom, and democracy. We are living in a time when anti-woke rhetoric has become a weapon to divide us and distract us from the real issues of injustice. To be woke is to be aware of oppression and commitment to justice. Exactly! If you're awoke, what do you think the opposite of woke is? It's asleep, morons! That means you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. Woke is like, hey, I understand this is how things are set and the underlying things. But there's so many morons out there. Woke is ruining America. Bunch of morons. From the AP, Trump, a populist president, is flanked by tech billionaires at his inauguration. Yeah, this is what I kept saying. In his inauguration, 3 of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. Don't tell me he's for the average person. Not when you have people like that at your inauguration. Not when you give Elon a place in your administration. You are not for the average person. You're a moron if you believe that. From journals.plos.org. The relationship between short video usage and academic achievement among elementary school students. The mediating effect of attention and the moderating effect of parental short video usage. In other words, people are losing any attentive spans they have because a lot of the social media sites use short videos. You've got to learn to expand your attention. And from nature.com, Nature Human Behavior, trust in scientists around their role in society across 68 countries. Science is crucial for evidence-based decision-making. Public trust in scientists can help decision-makers act on the basis of the best available evidence, especially during crises. However, in the recent years, the epistemic authority of science has been challenged, causing concerns about low public trust in scientists. We interrogated these concerns with a pre-registered 68-country survey of 71,922 respondents and found that in most countries, most people trust scientists and agree that scientists should engage more in society and policy making. Except here in the U.S., where it's like, only them church leaders know, because they're backed by God! We found variations between and within countries, which we explain with individual and country level variables, including political orientation. While there is no widespread lack of trust in scientists, we cannot discount the concern that lack of trust in scientists by even a small minority may affect considerations of scientific evidence in policy making. These findings have implications for scientists and policymakers seeking to maintain and increase trust in scientists. Yeah. I believe scientists who have actually, it is their job, they've spent their life studying these things, I believe them more than a moronic politician who like, my people don't want to hear that. I believe scientists a whole heck of a lot more than I'll ever believe any politician who's that big of an idiot. Tommy Tuberville, Donald Trump. Oh, forget it. Like Tommy Tuberville and Donald Trump. I ain't going to freaking hide it anymore. My disdain for these idiots. From the AP, Taliban deputy tells leader there is no excuse for education bans on Afghan women and girls. Heck yes. Heck yes. Senior Taliban figure has urged the group's leader to scrap education bans on Afghan women and girls, saying there is no excuse for them in a rare public rebuke of government policy. Shehrabaz Stanikzai, political deputy at the foreign ministry, made the remarks in a speech on Saturday in southeastern Khost province. He told an audience at a religious school ceremony there was no reason to deny education to women and girls, just as there was no justification for it in the past, and there shouldn't be one at all. Hopefully, he don't get slapped back for it. But yeah, I like there's actually someone standing up saying, women and girls have just as much right to be educated as anybody else. From The Guardian, Sydney Child Care Centre set alight and sprayed with anti-Semitic graffiti. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns says police will track down people behind Maroubra attack and foreshadows new anti-hatred laws. Look, my complete and personal dislike. I was almost going to say hatred because it feels that hard, but I don't want to say hatred against somebody. But yeah, the way the Israeli government is, and the way they've treated people, I have huge dislike for them. But it is not a permissible reason to commit anti-Semitic acts. But yeah. From the AP, China executes 2 men who committed deadly attacks known as Revenge on Society crimes. China has executed 2 men who committed deadly attacks that killed dozens in November, raising concerns about a surge in what are called Revenge on Society crimes. Fan Weiku, 62, who rammed his car into a crowd outside a sports stadium in southern city of Zhuhai, killing at least 35 people, was executed on Monday. The attack was the country's deadliest in over a decade, according to authorities. Police say Fan was upset over his divorce settlement. Also in November, 21-year-old Zhu Jiajing killed 8 people and injured 17 others in a stabbing attack at his vocational school in the eastern city of Wuxi. Police said Wu had failed his examinations and could not graduate and was dissatisfied about his pay at an internship. He was executed on Monday. The killing spurred Chinese President Xi Jinping to urge local governments to take measures to prevent such attacks, known as Revenge on Society crimes. Okay. From The Guardian, net zero hero myth unfairly shifts burden of solving climate crisis onto individuals, study finds. Shifting responsibility to consumers minimizes the role of energy industry and policymakers, according to research from the University of Sydney. From Reuters, Trump cancels sanctions on Israeli settlers in the West Bank. I hate that they call them settlers. They're not settlers, they're occupiers. All they're doing is taking property that belonged to someone else and kicking those people out of their own home. And Trump says, no, that's fine. They can do that all they want. Like I said, Trump's not a good guy. He's not there to protect Palestinians. How anyone thinks this, I don't know. We weren't left in a good situation with Biden, but Trump is not the right choice for it either. From The Guardian, EU pledges 120 million euros in new aid for Gaza as it happened. I guess the peace agreements or whatever. 4 days ago, closing summary. 4 days ago, Israel's Prime Minister's office says hostage ceasefire deal reached. 4 days ago, Egypt urges truce deal to be implemented without delay. Remember, Egypt is right below, and that's where Israel wanted to force many people in Gaza to flee to, and Egypt was like, we cannot take them all. 4 days ago, EU pledges 120 million euro in new aid for Gaza. Okay. Israel's far-right national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, says he will quit if Israel approves Gaza ceasefire. See, that shows the guy's not there for peace. He wants to end Palestinian life in Gaza. That's clear as a bell. And from Zeteo, on day one, Trump declares war on migrants, Mexico, and the Constitution. Yeah, he does not believe in our own Constitution. Anybody who says he's there for rule of law is an absolute moron. President idiot, does not believe in our Constitution. He only wants things that are good for him and his rich buddies. And I don't know how people can't see this. How stupid can you be? Trump marked being dictator for a day, flanked by four of the richest people on earth, one of whom appeared to do a Nazi salute. Elon, yeah. We done went over him doing the Nazi salute. Now, let's watch some videos. Because this video has already been long. But let's watch some videos here. Israel targets Palestinians. More people killed in Gaza after start of truce. Like I said, we've already had murders after the ceasefire, so-called ceasefire, has been signed.
As the ceasefire takes effect across the Gaza Strip, thousands of Palestinians return to their neighborhoods and face scenes of overwhelming destruction. Streets are filled with families returning home. Many are having to pick up the pieces of their lives from what used to be their homes, now reduced to ruins. Others find charred walls or only parts of their houses barely standing. Motosim sift through the debris, hoping to find precious belongings. Finding identification documents and personal items is his priority.
The moment they announced the ceasefire agreement will come into effect at 8:30 in the morning, we decided to arrive here at 9. We set up a tent for ourselves and started fixing what we could in the house, using simple tools like hammers, jacks, and pickaxes. Even those who have heavy equipment won't be able to use them because of a lack of gasoline. Following the ceasefire, I feel nothing. I just feel I lost my house and all my memories from inside this home. It's so sad.
11-year-old Asma has a different goal. Having survived being trapped under rubble, she's searching for her school bag and books. Despite everything, Asma dreams of returning to school, even if her family's new home will only be a makeshift tent on top of the remains of her family's bombed house.
وجاي أطلع دبدوب اللي انحرق اللي بحبه.
I came to collect my clothes and books to prepare myself for school. I miss my school. I also came to take my burned teddy bear that I love so much. I found this doll from under the rubble. I'm also taking clothes for my mother and the rest of my family. We need to use our normal clothes because what we wear now is being given to us by charities.
In Al Buraish refugee camp, the destruction is devastating. Residents find their neighborhood uninhabitable, yet they choose to stay. The rebuilding using what little is available, determined to hold on to the places they call home. The ceasefire may have halted the violence, but for Palestinians in Gaza, the battle to rebuild their lives is just beginning. Their resilience is a testament to their unyielding spirit in the face of unimaginable loss.
After the ceasefire, Palestinians came back to their neighborhoods, and this is what they found. Their houses, their memories, completely reduced into rubble. But despite the massive destruction, Palestinians are still willing to rebuild their houses and to fix whatever is left and collect anything left from their memories. This is Hind Al-Khudari, Al Jazeera, Al Buraij Refugee Camp, Gaza, Palestine.
Yeah. I mean, when it's all you've ever known, even if there's no structure still standing, it's like, this is where I grew up. This is where my life has always been. You don't want to give up on that. The Israel government is evil. It really, really is. All right. This video. President Trump has issued an executive order to provide clemency for around 1,500 people convicted for their involvement in the January 6th Capitol incidents. Right against the government? You're okay, as long as you did it for me.
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people. So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. Full pardon. Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you.
He's such a moron. He really is.
Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they come out tonight, frankly. We're expecting approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Donnie dumbass. Yeah. Look, I've got no love for the Clintons, Obama, or Pence. But this shows how much of a brainwashed cult Trump supporters are. Clinton's, Obama, Pence viciously booed by Trump supporters watching at Capital One Arena as they watched them enter. Oh, I did not even turn on the sound. Let's try this again.
Now the boos are picking up again, as you can imagine. You have former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and obviously former President Bill Clinton as well. The crowd here is getting a little more raucous as it's filling out. About 20,000 inside of the Capitol real time, and how sort of MAGA world is watching. Big boos right now, as you can imagine. I don't know if you guys can hear it over my mic, but
boy, is that striking.
Former President Obama, former President Obama, getting a resounding, as we would say in New York, a Bronx cheer here.
I have to wonder if this is setting the tone.
But look, these are loyal supporters, yeah. Yeah, Lester, I think you're right.
Loyal supporters are more like loyal cult members. Idiots who vote for a president idiot. Alright. Yep, and these are the kind of people who celebrate Trump. White nationalist hate group, the Proud Boys, come out in numbers to celebrate their leader's victory. So yeah, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, these are Trump's audience.
1% on the top. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Fucking people. On the street. Right now. We got access.
Yeah, that's Trump's people right there. Racist and idiots. As of today, there are only two genders, male and female, according to President Trump.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Israeli forces arrest more than 60 Palestinians in the town of Azun, east of Kalikila in the West Bank. They have to refill the coffers with more innocent Palestinians after letting 90 innocent women and children go in the hostage exchange they recently had. So yeah. I swear, the Israel government's so freaking evil. So demonic. So monstrous. So vile. So wretched. News media misleads its viewers about tariffs, and PBS tells them the truth.
So, I think the two top priorities for things on his radar, the tax cuts, obviously, but also tariffs.
Yes.
And we've heard a million times, tariffs are a tax on people too. You tax 20%, 10% on everything from China. That impacts anybody who buys that stuff.
But that depends on who swallows the 10% tariff.
Right.
I mean, is it passed along to consumers? No, not always. It could be
More of the majority of the time it is, moron.
It doesn't mean tariffs do not mean higher prices for consumers necessarily.
But more of a chance there is, yes.
Found they were mostly paid by American businesses and their customers.
What we saw using tens of thousands of customs records is that the price that we paid the exporters didn't change. And so we believe that those tariffs were passed through 100% to U.S. importers.
Mary Lovely studies trade at the Peterson Institute for International Economics.
Washing machines, we saw an almost immediate increase in price. Many of them are made in South Korea. The South Korean made washing machine was more than $1,000 higher. But then also the domestic made machine was also higher, as was the dryer, even though there were no tariffs on dryers.
Trump's plan for a 20% across-the-board tariff plus a 60% tariff on China suggests price increases for consumers could be large.
The burden on the average family would be a minimum of $2,700 a year. Estimates that include those increases in domestic prices as well go up to $4,000 and above for the average American household.
Wow. So he's going to cost American families almost $1,300. Thanks a lot, President Moron. Okay. Nazi salute to seeing America's new president. Just got removed from another sub. America, what the absolute fuck? Do you realize you're the Nazis now? Like the bad guys we fought a whole world war to kill? Unfucking believable seeing this. What would it take for you to get off your asses and stop this? Because goddamn, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Yep. I already pointed this out to y'all. Watch this. Ugh. Yeah. Nazi saluting morons is who we put in office. Yeah, America! Stupid people, I swear. I think this is the same, almost like the same video I watched at the beginning here. Israel targets Palestinians, more people killed in Gaza after the start of the truce. So we won't watch it. So with that, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. Like I said, it's been a long one. Hour 45 minutes. Sorry it took so long, but we got it done. But, as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.